All right. So, yesterday, I spent an inordinate amount of time putting in all the books that I've read in the last year in Goodreads so I can do another weird, let's kind of look at what people do or don't read, because for better or worse, Goodreads is primarily where people are tracking their books online. I know we have so many other versions now. I use Storygraph, but to my knowledge, I can't filter books by how many people have rated them or their average rating, which is fine. It's just a thing I can do on Goodreads. So I put in all my books and my ratings for them so I could then sort by the number of ratings, because I care about that number vastly more than the average rating. Because, I don't know, people don't have taste. I'm just kidding. I just don't actually know how to feel about a 3.1 versus a 3.9. It all feels like splitting hairs to me. But number of ratings, I decided to look at the ones that have less than 1,000 and talk to you guys about like 10-ish of them that I love and maybe you should look into for one reason or another. And by definition, they are underrated. They have so few ratings. So few. Now, I've done this many times. I'll link some of them down below if you want to see them. I do attempt not to double up on other videos because sometimes, eventually, they finally leave this space. For example, one of my favorite books, Each of Us a Desert, finally has more than 1,000 ratings. This can also work because if you're doing the Reddit bingo, you need to read a book that has less than 1,000 ratings, and it's even more points if it's from 5 years or more ago. So maybe you'll find something here. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about, because I don't actually read a lot of self-pub or indie pub books, but I have read some, and unfortunately, usually these do have lower ratings. But one of these I wanted to talk about is a whole trilogy. It's called the Resonance series. It's a sci-fi trilogy that I really enjoyed. Just a very good quality adventure sci-fi. I will say I know the author. I went to college with her. We weren't close friends, but we did work on physics homework together. So we were in the trenches of doing physics, but like we were never close friends other than that. And I really liked her whole trilogy. Like I read the whole thing. I even got some of the books on audio. I think the audio production's pretty good. All of these, like the first book has 119 ratings, and then the second and third are 40 and 33, respectively, when I wrote this stuff together. So I think you should try it out, especially if you like things like Mass Effect and stuff like that. I feel like it has a lot of that inspiration and energy, that like kind of adventure, video game adjacent science fiction. Also, like if you liked, what was that series I read by Valerie Valdez? It had the cats on the cover. Chilling Effect. That series kind of reminded me of that. I actually liked this one more than Chilling Effect. And then the other ones I want to talk about, so short stories also don't get a lot of ratings. This is, again, a feature, not a bug, usually, but I wanted to bring up some. One of them is very unique. This is called Geometries of Belonging. So this is where you get to explore this very unique world through a collection of short stories by this author. And I know there are novellas out and other works by them. I read this for the Ursula K. Le Guin Award in fiction a few years ago, and it still sticks with me. Like, it was a very interesting time. Some of the stories I liked a lot more than others, but I had a pretty good time with all of them. And especially if you want, like, a neurodivergent author writing these types of stories with neurodivergent characters, I think it's really good. So that's just a very unique book. And I kind of get, I think this might be a small press book, or if not self-pubbed. So I kind of get why it's not out there. The other two make me sad, actively. So New Sons did pretty well. It has above 1,000 ratings. But New Sons Volume 2, which is my favorite of the two, only has 191. If you want to try short story anthologies, like a wide range of authors, I think the New Sons anthologies are the best. For my taste. Like, if you think we have similar tastes, you got to give it a go. The author curation is fantastic. There are big name authors in here. Tananari Du, Niveau, like there's big name authors in these collections. Nisi Shaw does a great job curating these works, and they're short. It's like a 250-page book. It's not that long. My biggest gripe with anthologies is that they're too long. So give it a shot. Give it a go. And then a collection I adore, only has 401 ratings, is Drinking from Graveyard Wells. I think I just waved this book at you guys recently because I finally bought a paperback copy for my collection. Again, I read this for the Ursula K. Le Guin Award in fiction. It's an author from Zimbabwe who spent time in the United States for school. And it's speculative, it's contemporary, I think every story in there was at least 4.5 stars or 5. I have rarely read collections so solid. Like, it's usually Ken Liu, Ted Chiang. Those are really solid ones. Carmen Maria Machado. Like, those are the ones where I'm like, these are super solid. And this one is too. But no one's read this one. You should really give it a go. I think her style is stunning. And it deserves more eyes on it, especially short story eyes, you know, like if you like short stories. And again, even if you're trying to find short stories you might like, I think she writes really well-paced short stories. I think sometimes pacing is something that can be really tricky in the short story art. Like, even if you're 30 pages, that's a long time to be sitting down with a story if it doesn't have good pacing. Can you imagine a sitcom that doesn't know how to pace itself? So, that's kind of my short story collections. I now have some sequels that I wanted to talk about because their first books do okay, but I would like their sequels to also get love. One is a new release, so I'm hoping that it'll get more traction, but this is The Potency of Ungovernable Impulses. It's the new Malka Older in the Masa Plady world. Like, I know people love Murderbot. I do. And I'm not saying you shouldn't love Murderbot, but there are other Tor.com novellas that I think deserve some love, and I think this is one of them. I would adore having, like, an endless amount of these detective stories with these individuals. It's on Jupiter. It has fascinating world building. I think the relationship dynamics are cool. It has the comfort of the Watson-Holmes dynamic for you to fall into. If you like critique on academia, that can be in here as well. I think it's a very cool and like has a cozy kind of energy because at least a lot of the stressors typically aren't environmental or financial, at least for the people living it. So I don't know. I find it kind of an easy read for myself, and I really enjoyed the third installment. I feel like the first book got a fair bit of buzz, but everything's kind of tapered off. We also have The Unkillable Princess. So this is from Solaris, and the first book, The Immortality Thief, did okay, but not like great. And then this book barely has anything. It's like 260 ratings. This is such a fun sci-fi series, and I think it's incredibly accessible. The first book is more like sci-fi horror suspense, and this one's more like a heist, more like a heist adventure story. And it's all about the platonic dynamic of these three individuals who are on literally different sides of this whole conflict, but they end up having to work together to survive, and then they just form this bond, and like that's the core. If you like that core, and Sean is such a himbo, and he's our narrator, and he's so funny, so if you like want to enjoy the humor of something like The Martian or Project Hail Mary, but maybe want to have a little bit more around it, I think you should try this series out. I think it's really good and very underhyped. I think part of it is Solaris hasn't been marketing it much. I don't know how much marketing it got when it first came out because I was definitely around and I didn't know about it. So I just think it deserves more love than it's been getting. And then the next one that you'll probably hear me talk about even more in the future is We Are the Crisis. This is the second book in the No Gods, No Monsters series by Kedwell Turnbull. And yeah, this series is so fun. I'm like 60-ish pages away from finishing the third book in that series. And yeah, this series is so interesting. If you like N.K. Jemisin, you have to give it a go. Like if you just, that really weird interconnected storytelling and also the discussion of gods and multiverses and things like that. If you like how she's played with those ideas, I think how he's playing with them is very fascinating. It also reminds me of like Karen Lord's work. So if you've liked Karen Lord's work, a lot of my favorites I see in his work style as well. And it's been very fun. So yeah, those are just sequels, and sequels just never get as much love because there's just always a general dying off. Right? So here's my reminder that these sequels exist and they're very good. So you should try out either the first book or also the sequel. Yeah. And none of these books are like extreme cliffhangers without a series coming out. Like, for example, We Are the Crisis is a cliffhanger, but the next book's out in like a month. So it's fine. You can binge it like right now. And then the next one is one that is a new release-ish, came out last year, and I am like kind of disgusted at how few people have rated this on Goodreads. It's called The Blackheart Man by Nayla Hopkinson. It has 286 ratings. Now, like, I don't even know. Like, and she's a well-known author. Like, you go look at Brown Girl in the Ring and Midnight Robber, some of her other works. They have a good number of ratings. She's a very well-known Caribbean author. And this new release that she came out with has so few ratings. Like, that's just so few. I was totally expecting at least like 1,000 ratings or something like that. And I don't know why. I actually think this one has one of her most compelling characters to me. I love Vakosi. He is a mess. And I love how she writes her stories and her communities and the things that I learn and I get to see and explore. I think she's very good. I think this one's a little bit longer. Normally her books are around like 300, 350, and this one's a bit longer at 400, and I think it would have been better at 350. But that said, I had a blast reading it. Like, it sucked me in, her prose style. And she's just, especially if you're someone who's like, publishing isn't releasing good works anymore, this is someone who's good at her craft. Like, it's going to be different. Like, maybe it's not going to be perfect for you and your taste, but it's like, she's got a great style. Next up, I keep, hammering my Nikki Drayden drum. I'm sure I bring her up all the time, but I truly cannot understand why people aren't reading Nikki Drayden. She is one of my favorite underrated authors. We have the sequel to Escaping Exodus, which has 478 for Y, and then we have Temper with 733. All of her books are wacky and zany and short and unputdownable. You should give them a go. They are so fun. Like, they are wacky, they are zany, but they're compelling and they're engaging and they're well-paced, and I love them. I have all 4 of her books. I own all of them, and I perpetually follow her on social media just to know when her next book might be, because her last book was Symbiosis. So, this other one was the winner of the Ursula K. Le Worden fiction. It's a novella from Canada called Arboreality, which I adore. I love this. It's interconnected stories, climate sci-fi. Ooh, it's good. It's really good. I highly recommend, especially if you want climate sci-fi with hope. Like, it has all of the badness baked into it, but it also has hope. And it's not like fake feeling hope. It's like realistic, oh, this seems like a well thought out thought experiment that I can live with. And it's about living. Like, I think when I read about tragedies these days, I have to see how people are living, because people do always need to learn how to live. What is the point of life if you're not living? Surviving is not enough. Sometimes you have to be on only survival mode. That is unfortunately how we all exist at one point or another. But the point of survival mode is to get back to the living mode. And I think that's really represented in books like Arboreality. So I love it. It's very short. It's a very good blend of hard and hopeful. We got Karen Lord. Man. And this is her series that has The Best of All Possible Worlds, which is not on this list, but that series with The Galaxy Game and Blue Beautiful World is. And it just makes me sad. I don't know what that sound was. Something has happened outside my house with a truck. I don't know what. But, and I'm really sad because Blue Beautiful World has a pretty low rating, and I do not think it's deserved, but whatever. I read that book. It has below a 3-star rating, and that is factually incorrect. Like, I'm sorry. That's just wild to me. But The Galaxy Game and The Blue Beautiful World, I think, are really good about following communities and this change of power in this world and how first contact could work on Earth. And it's just so well thought out. And I have a whole interview discussion with her about that series in detail. So yeah, anytime I can shout about Karen Lord, I'm going to, because she is also one of my favorite underrated authors. Her and Nikki Drayden. I'm just like, for why? For why? Next up, I haven't talked about this in a long time. The sequel to Catfishing on Katniss is called Chaos on Katniss. It only has 930 ratings. That duology by Naomi Kritzer is delightful. I don't read a lot of young adult, not because I'm better than it, just because I don't. I'm 32. I don't think anyone should be mad at me at 32 for not reading young adult, right? But I dabble at times, and I dabbled with Catfishing on Katniss, and I loved it, consumed it. One of my 5-star reads of that year. I could not put it down. It was cozy. It was engaging. I loved how she imagined things. Just even the chat rooms and the friendships and the found family. It was so good and so tense. And Chaos on Katniss was a great successor to that. And I actually really liked how the influences of 2020 bled into that work and how she talked about it at the end. I thought that was really good in her author's note. So yeah, if you're looking for a sci-fi suspense duology that also has good suspense and good hope, I love this series. I love it so much. You should give it a go. It's one of my, if I ever see it in the wild, I will pick it up series. That's how I am about it. And then my last one is a Mary Brennan called Driftwood. This is a novella I love. Has 973 ratings as of me curating this video. And yeah, this is another one that is about hope at the end of the apocalypse. Literally, when a world goes to die, it ends up in driftwood. And as these worlds are slowly dying and it's going towards the center, societies are still existing. They're just changing and warping and adapting, and people are living. Again, that theme of living. One must live even at the end. And I think that's something that helps me hold on to anything. It's just, especially with everything, with the world, it's with how humans exist, we are really a messed up species. I really feel like the way we compete for resources is just like no other animal could even remotely compete with how destructive we are towards the world and each other, right? But sometimes living is great. And like, it's also why in my own life, I keep trying to do things to live, even though it is so easy to just be numb and stare at walls. Like I've been meeting new people in a new bookstore. I've been learning how to speak Spanish again at these Spanish chats and like joining new book clubs. It's useful to live and form connections, I feel. And I think this book reminds me of that. Same with Arbor Reality. So yeah, those are just some underrated books that I think are worth your time. Give them a shout. Look at them. See if you like them. There's a good range in here between sci-fi, fantasy, novellas, novels, YA, right? There's a whole blending here. So, and again, most of these would work for the Reddit Bingo Square. For sure, normal mode. Some of them even hard mode, for sure. Anyways, if you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, oh, I do not know, leave a tree for Arbor Reality, and let me know any of your unsung, underrated books. Like, what's a book you love that has less than 1,000 ratings that you think more people should read? And if you think I should read it, give me a little reason why. You know, what about my taste makes you think that that's a book I should like? Because I would for sure check it out. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.